PNR Networks is a member of Patreon. Show your love for our shows by joining our ongoing fundraising campaign and get some fantastic perks in return. Check it out and become a Patreon sponsor. You can sign up at patreon.com, patreon.com/PNR Networks. And thanks for your support.
This podcast is a member of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry. No E's. That's Blueberry, BLUBRRY.com. Blueberry.com.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Here's a classic old Garfield strip where he's hanging on the screen door with his claws. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm bored. Bored. And then John opens the screen door rather hard, slams Garfield against the wall. Boom! Come back. I'm in pain. Pain. I tried to find a clip for this off the cartoon. I don't think they ever did it, because that's how this month is going to be. It's Masochistic March, people. We've got 4 really awful martial arts movies for you this month, plus regular films, news, happenings in all the world of entertainment and film. Mm-hmm. All for you right here, right now. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
May the sands through the hourglass be with us, and be patient with these movies.
Because this time, it's Subject Cinema. Yeah!
Stand by to receive our transmission.
This town needs an enema.
Celebrating a decade of film podcasting. Lasting out of Beantown, USA, you're tuned into Subject Cinema with T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown.
Directive.
Oh, behave. Yeah.
I volunteer as tribute.
Suppose you run your business and let me run mine. Here's looking at you, kid.
Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome T.C. and Kim.
I look forward to this every year, but it's just so...
We look forward to it, and at the same time, we're like, oh my gosh, why do we do this to ourselves?
Because we're masochists. This is why we call it Masochistic March. Welcome to Subject Cinema. I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown. Let's hear it for pain. Hooray!
Subject Cinema number 559, day and date, March 5th, 2017. We should be at the Salem Film Festival this weekend.
But we're not.
We're not. For various reasons.
Yeah.
Although yesterday they did play a movie we reviewed last year, so we'll get to play it in the special in May. That was the wonderfully quirky Yarn, which won a couple of awards from us at the end of the year. It's actually a very cool film. How was your week?
All right.
I mean, after last week it was 70 degrees, and this week today it's 15 degrees.
This week it's colder than a witch's
ass.
Ah! I was going to say tit, but you decided to go there.
Okay.
Well, fine.
A family show.
Well,
on both of them. On both of them. So this month, Masochistic March. We've done disaster movies. We've done just overall bad films.
We've done musicals.
Musicals. Oh, God. This year we decided martial arts is where it's at. Now, the problem is we've had a great deal of difficulty finding martial arts films. Not finding bad martial arts films, but finding martial arts films that are bad that are available for you to watch.
Yep.
One of the credos we have for Masochistic March is our slogan. If we have to suffer, you have to suffer. Which means they all have to be available on streaming or DVD or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it has not been easy trying to find 4 films that have easily accessible. Right. So we've had to pick 4 that are kind of really the bottom of the barrel.
Yep.
We still have 2 to watch. We've seen the other 2. So it's going to be like, okay.
The thing about bad martial arts movies, we should kind of go into what makes something a bad martial arts movie. Now, there is
Well, let's just start with what makes films a bad film.
Okay.
In general.
Well, it could be a lot of different things.
Direction, writing, acting, choreography.
Special effects.
Yeah.
The script. You know.
I did say writing.
Yeah, the fact that the camera looks like it's being held by a manic depressive, and the fact that it looks like the film was edited by a manic depressive with a straight razor and a pot of glue.
Now, don't make fun of manic depressives. We'll have everybody tweeting on how horribly insensitive we are.
I'm sorry. Well, I don't... fine. Sorry. But... there are lots of... I mean, we've talked about bad movies on this show for years, and there are some movies that are... I mean, some movies are bad, but you can tell the director really tried. And there are some movies that are bad because the director just really didn't give a crap.
Which is why we're starting with this particular director in one of his movies, because he's one of the latter.
Well...
as far as we can tell, although he's now teaching film, which really terrifies me. Mm-hmm. He has quite a reputation, and we're going to talk about him and one of his many bad films. And the only one of this particular series that is still available for streaming, you can find it on Amazon Instant Video, and if you have Prime, it's free. And I've also just found it on YouTube.
Yes.
So it is available. Here we go. It's time for Masochistic Martial Arts March.
Everybody is kung fu fighting. Your mind becomes fast as lightning. Although the picture is a little bit frightening. But the night that you're riding,
Hey kids, time to jump in the car. Pull into a choice viewing spot. Put the speaker in the window. Sit back, relax, and suffer with everyone else. It's time for another trip to the Subject Cinema Drive-In Dungeon.
Ninja Champion, a story of manipulation and betrayal. Ninja Champion, where corruption and violence knows no bounds. Also, I want you to watch this man. Yes, Master. Ninja Champion. A star-crossed lover takes revenge on her ex-fiancé against the backdrop of international crime.
Ho, ho, ho! Merry March, masochistic March to everybody. Ho, ho, ho! Got presents of bad movies for everybody.
What are you doing?
Santa Claus.
It's March.
I know, but our director is Godfrey Ho. I figured ho, ho, ho would fit, right? Godfrey Ho has
Guess what? You figured wrong.
An interesting... is that a good way to put it? An interesting reputation among people of this fandom. Mainly because he takes films parts of them, then cuts them up and puts them in 5 or 6 different movies.
Yeah. Godfrey Ho never met a piece of celluloid that he didn't like. Or a piece of celluloid that he couldn't use.
So he was kind of like the original James Nguyen, although at least James Nguyen has his heart in it the way it's supposed to be, and doesn't do like 8 different movies.
Well, Mr. Ho needed to get movies out there, and goodness knows he did. You know, I mean, I'm trying to put a positive spin on this. I'm trying to be optimistic. My gosh.
Our first film in Masochistic Martial Arts March is the 1983. Well, it says 83 in one place and 86 someplace. So
it was probably made in 83 and didn't come out until 86.
Yeah, that's probably what happened. The 1983/86 martial arts bad classic Ninja Champion. This is one of those films we have talked about on the show because if you've noticed, when Mr. Ho makes his ninja films, which usually consist of ninja footage shot completely separately and then spliced into movies with completely plots that don't make any sense.
Yeah. You've got plot, ninjas. Plot, ninjas.
Such as
plot,
they are.
Plot, ninja.
Right. And
plot.
He has an interesting way of looking at ninjas.
Oh, yes.
Ninjas teleport, which I think is interesting.
Well,
or at least that's what they appear to be. I suppose it's supposed to be stealthiness.
Yeah. Well,
is that anything close to truthiness?
Well,
oh, no,
no.
Sorry.
Could we not?
Yeah, okay, fine, sorry.
The whole teleporting part, I actually don't have a problem with, because when you look
You
back...
sure did when we watched this masterpiece a couple weeks ago.
No. Let me explain what I mean. No, the problem I have is that it was done so badly.
Well, yeah.
The whole thing about ninjas being able to teleport was actually something that... I mean, ninjas supposedly were also able to walk on water.
Right.
Now, when you look back at stuff that people have said about ninjas in history and stuff like that, a lot of the stuff that was out there was actually probably put out there by the ninjas themselves.
Right.
So that people would believe they had these supernatural powers and they were these
Just like
invulnerable killers and blah, blah, blah.
It's a self-propelled publicity.
Oh, yeah.
You believe your own press releases.
Right.
The Knights Templar were the same way. They did the same thing, spread word about things that they supposedly could do. And,
their whole thing, the Knights Templars' whole thing was, we're fighting for God. Bull crap, you were fighting for loot. But
they had their hearts in the Christian right place, right?
Yes, and we all know where the road paved with good intentions leads
very,
to.
Very good, okay.
But my point being, when you look at the information about ninjas and the art of ninjutsu, the art of assassination, if you prefer, a lot of what people heard about ninjas and whispered about ninjas was stuff that ninjas let get out there.
Right.
Because Al Gore hadn't invented the internet way back then.
And he hadn't invented ninjas yet either.
No.
And in time, I'm sure he'll claim to do it.
And also the fact that in Mr. Ho's movies...
Ho, ho, ho.
Especially this movie, would you please knock that off? There's one thing that now, granted, back in the 80s, nobody had come up with a term that TC now truly despises, the term whitewashing. It wasn't really thought of as a movie term. Really, I never heard it, back then.
I despise it as a movie term if it's not used properly, and so many people are using it to describe things that don't even come close to whitewashing.
But in this movie, holy crap, is it deserved? Because
there's one white guy in the entire film.
What are you talking? Well, I'm sorry.
The rest are all Asians.
No. The two main ninja bad guys.
What are you
talking about?
I forgot about the bad guy. Sorry.
Yeah.
You're right.
The two main ninjas are white guys. I'm like, excuse me. What?
One other thing that I wanted to bring up that I got cut off on.
Sorry.
Is that Godfrey Ho has one thing that drives both of us up the wall when it comes to his films. His ninjas are dressed in bright colors.
Yes.
With headbands with the word ninja on them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you're a ninja, why the hell do you need a headband that says ninja? Hello?
Yeah.
And they're like white and red and yellow in one film, and I'm like, oh my god, really?
Okay, see the whole thing...
Ninjas wear black.
Well, okay, hold up. Wait.
And white in snow.
Yeah, see, that's where I was going to go. The whole thing about ninjas, the whole art of being a ninja, was the whole thing that boils down to one word. Stealth. I really don't see how much stealth is going to be involved with a ninja skulking around in a bright red outfit.
Right.
I mean, it works fine.
If you're working in a meat packing plant, maybe. But other than that, I don't think it's going to work.
Great for Daredevil, lousy for ninjas.
Unless your name is Ben Affleck.
Anyway, moving on. And the whole headband with the word ninja on it, I'm like, oh,
and the bad guy wears that too, by the way.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of surprised that the bad guy didn't have a headband that said evil ninja or something like that. I mean, oh my gosh.
In English.
In English, yes.
In English, not in Japanese characters. In English.
No. These movies are just wow.
I went out and bought, they had these kits with the headbands from the Karate Kid on them.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, nice. And I went out and bought like 4 or 5 of those because found them at the dollar store for $1, and I was a huge fan of that movie. Mm-hmm. And those are respectable looking, nice looking headbands.
Mm-hmm.
This looks like one of those ones. Do you remember in the 1980s when they used to sell the silk headbands with like the rock group's names on them?
Yeah.
That's what this looks like.
Or
it doesn't even look like a headband.
Or the Rising Sun emblem or something like
exactly,
that. Yeah,
exactly.
Oh boy.
That's what these look like.
Well, let's try and explain the plot of this movie.
Plot?
Well,
plot? You're asking for a lot, aren't you?
This is me being...
Let's talk about the 2 plots, because there's 2 different plots. There's the main plot of the story, and the ninja stuff that's just been inserted into the film.
Yeah.
So we'll leave that for the second part, and just talk about the main plot of the story.
This is me being hopelessly optimistic again. I'm a Sagittarius. What do you want? Speaking of inserting, that's actually something that we deal with at the beginning of the film.
Oh my God! I cannot believe you went there.
I know. I feel really ashamed right now.
You should.
Because not as ashamed as the people that were in this movie.
Well, true.
Okay. When you consider the fact that the opening of the film, during the credits...
With the happy music playing.
When the happy music is playing and we're treated to a violent gang rape of what turns out to be the main character, I'm like... At first I was going, what are they... Oh my God... it was like, what are they doing? Oh. And I was like, maybe they really shouldn't be playing the dynamic kind of 80s keyboard, synthesizer music over this. Or maybe we really
Against the ninja style music?
Or maybe we shouldn't be watching this. I don't know which. So anyway, the plot of the film is that
Such as it is.
I know, this couple who is out camping... That always
in the middle of the city's park or something.
Because that always ends well. This is why I don't camp.
Oh, for Pete's sake.
They get attacked by these 3 guys, and she gets the woman is beaten very brutally, actually, and raped. Obviously, not a good thing. And she decides she's going to gain revenge, and she goes after the men that raped her. So it's basically a rape revenge story with martial arts elements thrown into it and horrible dubbing and...
Oh, the dubbing is atrocious.
And death...
They don't even try.
And death by sucking on poisoned boobs, don't ask. And in the middle of all of this, we also have these ninjas who are fighting each other in spaces in the movie. It's not a big dramatic fight all at once. It's just going on throughout the film, just to remind the audience that the name of the film is Ninja Champion. Although who these ninjas are supposed to be championing, which is a very difficult word to say. Who they're supposed to be champions of, I have no damn idea, because these are, like we mentioned, these ninjas are wearing these fire engine red costumes. And fighting each other to the death for reasons that are never explained. Gosh. I mean...
according to somebody on the IMDb, this is what they wrote down for the summary of this film. A couple camping in the woods is attacked by a trio of thugs and the wife is beaten and raped. A few months after the assault, she is hunting down the 3, who happen to be diamond smugglers, by posing as a dealer looking to sell some stolen merchandise. Meanwhile, her Interpol agent husband... How convenient. Is doing some tracking of his own in the hopes of bringing them to justice. As they make their plans, a group of ninjas is watching from afar, waiting to make their move.
Yeah, afar is in another movie.
Right. Richard Harrison is the name attached to most of Godfrey Ho's stuff. We found out that his career was so tattered by his association with Ho, who filmed him doing a few things and then spliced him into like 8 or 9 different films. He actually retired from acting in 1990 because nobody would hire him.
Yeah.
Which is a real shame because he was in a lot of stuff in the 60s that was pretty good. And
he's in one scene in this movie talking on the phone.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
And yet the movie says, starring Richard Harrison.
Yeah. I'm like, are we going to see him again? No?
Nope.
Fine. F you, movie. And like I said, the ninja scenes are completely so far removed from what passes for a plot in this movie that like I said, obviously it came from another film. You know, it's just like, oh my gosh, are you serious? And the acting is, well, I can't really say the acting is terrible.
We can't really tell because of the dubbing.
We can't tell because of the dubbing. And you can tell that the dubbing is being done by the same 5 people. You know,
it does seem like it, yeah.
Everybody's voice is pretty much the same. They just like pitch it a little higher or pitch it a little lower. Sometimes I was sitting there going, "Who's talking? I can't figure out who's saying. Can we stop this, please?" And the fighting. Ugh.
The cast list includes Bruce Barron as Donald. Which one was that?
You got me.
Pierre Tremblay as Maurice, the ninja boss. That's the big guy that ends up being the ultimate bad guy.
Yeah.
Philip Ching, Jack Lamb as George, Nancy Chang, I believe she's the lead actress. Richard Harrison, James Chan, Dragon Lee, who has done a couple of Bruce Lee ripoffs. Also, John Wall, Maria Kam, Elliot Leung, Jack Kim, Hubert Ching, and Colin Lee. And many of these people only have this film as their credit. So it's like, okay. Why is this? This is revered among bad kung fu film people as one of the worst and one of the funnest.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I could never sit through this again. It was so painful. It was funny. It was funny as hell because it's so disjointed, and
there are so many.
The bad guys are such freaking jokes that it's scary.
There are so many drinking games you could make out of this film.
Yeah.
Take a drink every time it's obviously a different film. Take a drink every time something happens that breaks all laws of physics. Take a drink every time someone's wearing a costume that makes your eyes bleed. You know, it's like, ugh! By the end of this movie, you're going to be pissed drunk if you do something like that, but it's probably the only way to watch this movie. I wish we'd gotten hammered before we watched it.
Godfrey Ho made a specialty of doing films like this. He would shoot parts of films at once, and then shoot a bunch of other stuff.
And then come back.
And then he would cut the footage, the action footage, into the regular film, even though it had no relationship whatsoever to the film that you're watching.
Yep.
And as such, all of his films carry the title Ninja something.
Yep.
Ninja the Protector, Ninja Champion, Ninja, there's another one with its really awkward title. And there's quite a few of them, but I think there's 8 of them. And I'm like...
there's a lot of them.
It's like, I can't see how anybody that doesn't want to die of a brain hemorrhage could sit through more of one of these at a settings. And some of these people have Godfrey Ho parties. Yeah. It's like, oh my God, why?
Couple of other ones that weren't mentioned, Full Metal Ninja and Ninja Terminator.
Yep.
Oh.
So he's doing a military movie and a science fiction movie and throwing ninjas into them.
I know. You got me.
And it's just the way he is. I really, you guys, this is one time when I would actually say it's okay if you don't share the pain with us.
F that. If we have to suffer, they do too.
Do you really want them to suffer through this? It might kill off half our audience.
Oh, well.
Eric and Company over at K-Babble, and maybe Anthony Lamberti and his friends can get through this, and a few of our other ones. But I have never been so mentally assaulted by a film this bad, ever. The only person I can compare to this guy is Coleman Francis.
Wow!
Really, seriously. And the scary thing is, Godfrey Ho is now a professor at the Hong Kong Film Academy.
At least he was. I don't know if he's still
No, this is as of last year.
Oh, as of last year. Okay.
I'm like, you're letting this man teach this style of film?
Well, you know.
Really? Oh my God. He's also notorious for throwing music in that he doesn't own the rights to. He's had music from Star Wars and Star Trek and a bunch of other TV, Miami Vice and stuff thrown
some
in various
anime
places
as well, and
yep.
some
I'm like,
costume superhero shows like Kamen Rider and that kind of stuff.
It's like, where do you get something like this? I understand the passion of wanting to be a filmmaker. You know, I would love to be able to make a film. And I have a few ideas in my head for films that I would like to do. But, you know, I'm also kind of sensitive enough not to make a film and think it's going to be Citizen Kane and end up with Birdemic.
Or The Room.
Or well, The Room is okay. And because that came out and became a classic all its own. What's the name of the movie? Miami Connection. Those two films, these people put their whole lives on the line for these films.
Yeah.
And they're just incredibly bad.
Yep.
And poor YK Kim went bankrupt. So it's like, I mean, at least James Nguyen didn't go that far.
No.
But it's like, oh my
Ninja
Lord.
Champion is, I mean, if you are of a strong constitution, I would definitely say give this a try if you've never seen it. If the idea of watching...
You might want to take a Percocet or something before you sit through it, though. It helps dull the pain a little bit.
If you have a prescription, we are not advocating recreational drug use.
No, we have too much opioid epidemic for that now.
We're straight edge here on Subject Cinema. Anywho,
between the two of us, we take enough regular medications to like float a battleship. What are you
know what
talking about?
I mean.
Anyway,
this is a great way to kick off Masochistic March, though, because it is a primo example of how not to make a ninja movie. Because you may want to have ninjas that can act, which would be nice.
You may want to have ninjas that actually belong in the movie.
Yeah, that are actually in the same movie.
Yeah.
That are not dressed like Power Rangers.
No. We're not doing Two Swords, Two Sorcerers. Remember, it's not available. We can't do that one.
I know.
That's the one with the Power Rangers in it.
I'm sorry, but when you're...
And please get headbands that don't read ninja.
Yeah.
I mean, how ridiculous
Seriously,
are you?
when Carson Kressley looks at your outfit and goes, damn, that's gaudy, you have a problem.
Oh. Ninja Champion is available on YouTube and through Amazon Prime for a short time, because all the rest of them used to be on Amazon Prime, but they're all gone except this one. Catch it while you can, if you are in the mood to be as masochistic as we are.
And don't say we didn't warn you.
Oh, we did. We definitely did.
No film is too good or too bad for us. This is Subject Cinema.
In a world where podcasts already seem to address every imaginable subject, one man broke new ground with a seemingly random obsession about exploding helicopters in movies. He was a podcaster on the edge, a maverick broadcaster who played by his own rules. Now, he has a last chance to talk about the strange way helicopters explode in film. Exploding Helicopter, available on iTunes and Podomatic now. Think you know about chopper fireballs? Think again.
All movies, all the time. Subject Cinema.
It's a little bit late because of the time frame and because we didn't find out about it, and I don't think a lot of people found out about it until it was too late. On this day and date, March 5th, 2017, we are celebrating the first real film day, REEL, Film Day. This is a new thing that's going to be yearly, sponsored by Kodak and the Alamo Drafthouse Cinemas. And I wish they had publicized this more. I didn't even find out about it till Friday when IndieWire had a write-up about it. Because I would have found a way so we could go today. The idea is your local cinemas, art house cinemas, play movies actually on a 35 millimeter film reel instead of a digital cartridge. We only have 2 or 3 theaters in the Boston area that still can do that. The Coolidge Corner, which is affiliated with Alamo, is the only one in Brookline, plus the Brattle can do it, and one other theater. I can't remember which one. And the rest of them are all digitized, completely digitized. This is so important because we've been talking the last couple of weeks, off and on, about cinemas dying. I mean, the theaters out there are dying because of home streaming and
Netflix
everything.
And
all the different...
Also, the simple fact that the theater's a very expensive thing to go to
Well,
anymore,
they have to be. They don't make any money.
No.
I mean, when we started going to the cinema, you and I, we were in our teens, and the cinemas were getting charged about 65 cents on a dollar by the studios. They now pay the studios 97 cents out of the dollar.
Yeah.
So
That's nuts.
That's nuts. The studios get 97% of the profit, and the theaters have to make their money on concessions or the other stuff. You know, our local theaters, Showcase, has a wonderful restaurant called Chatters that we frequent all the time. They know us so well over there.
They do.
And it's like
kind of sad.
And
really.
the food is delicious.
The food is great.
And you know, there's other places that have like they've tried to help make the experience more exciting for people.
Right.
They use gimmicks like 3D and now 4D is coming into vogue. They use the idea of making it more comfortable. Now most places you go to now feature reclining seats.
Yeah. Some places even go beyond the reclining seats and the fancier restaurants and stuff like that, and they actually have theaters where they can have food brought to you.
Right. Showcase Superlux in out there at Chestnut Hill was like that. We went there for Man of Steel a few years ago.
Yeah.
And it's a great cinema.
Yeah.
And they have a great cinema like that also out in Dedham. It's also a Showcase owned cinema. And some people go to the dinner pubs like Chunky's, which are great for families with kids that can eat and watch the film and enjoy it. But, you know, a lot of these places, again, they're still showing it on digital cartridge.
Right.
And more films are only being made on digital. So it's really scary that you look at this and know that the theaters
a lot of them are doing that exclusively on digital.
Well, they have to.
That's
the way that's the way studios want it.
Yeah.
It's the same thing that's happening with the streaming. If you notice, the studios are now manipulating time frames so that streaming video becomes available 3 to 6 weeks before the DVD comes out because they want you to buy the digital copy. And you know why they want you to buy the digital copy? Because if you do anything to piss them off, they can cut it off even though you bought it.
Yep.
They can't do that with a DVD. And this is why I do not buy digital copies of movies. I do of music, but I do not of movies.
I don't understand that. I mean,
they own the copyright, so technically they're leasing what you buy to them. The record industry has always done the same thing. When you buy a record, you're not really buying the record. It technically still belongs to the record company because the music belongs to the record company. You're just renting it or leasing it. And that's how.
But if you go online or something like that and say you think Capitol Records sucks, they can't come to your house and take your albums
but
away.
I'm saying they can like now, you know, Amazon can cut people off if they've done something wrong, and you're kind of out of luck if you're using Kindle because the Kindle books won't work all of a sudden. I know, like I said a couple times, I've said on the show, I read a case where a lady had done something and I forget what happened, but most people thought she was in the right, and Amazon still wouldn't back down. She lost $4,000 worth of books.
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy cow.
I mean, that's like somebody walking into your house and torching your library.
But that really doesn't have anything to do with real film, David. That's what we're going to talk about that in another day and time.
No, I totally understand.
But Real Film Day is about celebrating the actual 35mm film.
Right.
People feel like it is a medium that is dying out. Mm-hmm. And with so few theaters around the country, Cable Car Cinema in Providence is the other one that can do that.
Great cinema. If you are in the Providence area, please check out the Cable Car.
We went down there once for the Last Picture Show, which they showed as a party right before they converted to digital, but they kept their 35mm equipment.
Yeah.
And it's just really,
it's a great
really
cinema.
something. Alamo has been sponsoring this, and it was Tim League is one of the people that really pushed it. He's of course the owner and manager of Alamo, and he really been pushing this. And I love the variety that came out in theaters all over the country today. I think there's something like 45 theaters participating this year. Hopefully there'll be more than that next year.
Well, once word gets out there that this is going on,
hopefully it did. Art House Collective or whatever the name, Art House Convergence, the art house cinema trade group is involved too. Mm-hmm. But some of the films that they're showing are just they're all different types of films. If you live, I mean, you're going to miss it because it is going to be up after they're over for today. But if you were in these cities today, you had a chance to see these on film. Okay, in Tucson, Arizona, the Loft Cinema was showing Bicycle Thieves, classic French film, right? Or Italian? Italian film, I think.
No, they're right.
Littleton, Colorado, at the Alamo there had The Red Shoes. Boulder, Colorado, International Film Series showed Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. The Historic Aircraft Theater in Franklin, Indiana was showing Jurassic Park. Indianapolis IMAX at the Indiana State Museum was showing Star Wars Rogue One in IMAX 70 millimeter, which is kind of defeating the purpose of the 35 millimeter, but it's still film. So, that's good too. Wizard of Oz was showing in some places. Kill Bill, Buckaroo Banzai. From Russia with Love showed at the Coolidge Corner today. And Night of the Comet, wasn't that really bad science fiction film?
Yeah.
Was at the Alamo La Vista.
It's an apocalypse film about the Earth and being under the comet, and almost everybody dies. It's
Yonkers, Alamo Draft House in Yonkers, New York, had the Muppets Take Manhattan with tours for kids of the projection booth. That is so awesome. You got to get in. I mean, some of the films are just really amazing, and there's so few films made or actually put onto film anymore. Quentin Tarantino, as much as I can't stand his films, is one of those people that demands that they get a 70 millimeter print with everything they do so that they can put it out on film. This is a brilliant idea, but we've got to get the word out there so it's bigger next year.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a real film weekend next year where you can have two chances to go and see these things. Because right now, Real Film Day is happening in Boston. It's happening at the beginning of the Boston Springs of Festival season, which is just already going crazy. And we only have one festival over and now one festival in progress. And there's so many great films that are out there. You got to remember, everything before 2010 probably was available on the last, if I'm not mistaken, the last film that was made available to people on 35 millimeter was The Master with Philip Seymour Hoffman. I think. I'm not sure. It depends on the studio. I know 20th isn't doing them anymore. This is an important thing. I will bet you, I'll use that weird expression we can't figure out, dollars to donuts, 90% of our listenership has never seen an actual film. That they've only seen them on digital or on Blu-ray or on a home video.
I think you might be right.
There is something spectacular about seeing a film. With us in the Boston area, it's easier. We are very lucky because we have a film community in Boston that is unlike almost anywhere else except maybe Boston, except maybe New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, maybe Dallas and Austin. We have a film community up here that adores film.
Yep. And we're very lucky.
We are. In addition to, I mean, it's sad when you think about it. When I moved up here 20 plus years ago, there were like 8 more smaller single or double screen theaters in Boston.
That's true.
They've all closed now. The only ones that are left are the Regal 14 or 15 cinema out at Fenway, which is a pain in the ass for us to get to, but it's not a bad theater.
Well, we're not really happy with the changes they've made.
Well, no, the seats are a bit, I don't like the new seats. The tables that get in the way. We went out there for Shin Godzilla, and it was the first time we'd been there since they changed everything over, and it was a little bit weird. Then there's the basic one, which is the Boston Common AMC, and it's fine. And those are the only 2 chain theaters in Boston proper. Everything else is out in the suburbs.
Yeah. Now when you consider that when I was growing up and used to come to Boston, as a teenager, I didn't really go to Boston very much as a little girl because I didn't really have access, and there was no way in hell my parents were going to let me wander around Boston by myself at like 8 years old or something like that.
Right.
When I was a teenager in Boston, there was Pie Alley, there was the Orson Welles, there were like tons of other theaters.
The Orson Welles Cinema was out across near Fenway also, and it burned down in 1986. But it was considered a major landmark in Boston. Orson was actually there once and did visit, and a lot of places, a lot of people in Boston, in the film community that we've talked to, just continue to lament the loss of that place.
Yeah, they do.
Because they had a restaurant, they had a film school there, and they had the theater. Tommy Lee Jones was its first manager when he was a student at Harvard, which I thought was really interesting. Now, Boston is entering a kind of renaissance with the theaters, because for so long, we haven't had a new theater. I mean, when you consider that Regal Fenway was the last new theater put in, and that was in 2000, or maybe it was Boston Common. One of those 2 was the newest, and it was within a year of each other they went in. Boston hadn't had any new theaters, and they'd had a ton of them closed. You know, the Janus closed, the State closed, Nickelodeon closed in the mid-90s, and then you had renovations, like 3 different renovations done at what's now Apple Cinemas. It was called Fresh Pond for a while, and continue on. Now, with the explosion of these new, what they're calling inner city communities, is that what they're calling those things? We have 2 new big ones that are opening up. One, Canal Street, and Fort Point. Fort Point will open a Carasotis luxury theater in September of this year. Carasotis' first ever maneuver up into New England. They only have theaters in Minnesota and Pennsylvania and New Jersey at the moment. This is a luxury theater, though. It's going to be bigger than Showcase Superlux by 2 screens, and probably really high-end, expensive theater.
Right.
Fort Point is going to be an expensive area to live in, so it makes sense. The other one, One Canal Street, is 2 blocks from Haymarket T, and ArcLight is coming in there, and they will be putting in a 24-screen cinema that will open in the fall of 2019 as part of the One Canal Street complex, which they're presently screwing up North Station and everything else to build. So it's like, okay, we're going to get something. And ArcLight has a notorious reputation for bringing in really hard, really small, wonderful films that that cater to a niche audience.
Right.
Which is something that we get a few of because of the Brattle and the Coolidge Corner and the Dedham Community and a few of the outlying theaters, but we don't get a lot of them.
And every once in a while we get lucky over here.
We get a few at Showcase and Boston Common and of course Kendall Square, which is a landmark cinema, has them too. But it's a bitch to get to Kendall Square right now because they're renovating that whole area.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, wouldn't it be great if we could take these new theaters, Carasotis, which they won't do, and ArcLight, which I don't know, actually could, and took a couple of these cinemas and made them 35 millimeter capable.
That would be great.
I think that's one thing they should do. I'm going to quote from our recently elected president and say, for every 2 new digital theaters they should have in there, they need to add an additional 35 millimeter capable screen.
That would be nice.
Paraphrasing his regulations rule. I'm like, give us an actual film screen for every 2 digital screens, because that will help keep theaters alive. It will help them show real movies. Real movies for real people is what we're all about. Seeing a film projected on a screen, in a big screen, is there's nothing like it. And for us, I'll be honest, the best place, I'm sorry, Ned, the best place in the entire entire Boston area for that is the Coolidge Corner Theater in Brookline. They are completely renovated. They put in a new, huge screen. We have been there to see Metropolis, to see Some Like It Hot, King Kong, Jaws, all of them on 35 millimeter. And oh my God, it's an experience you cannot rival with a digital screen. I love the Coolidge Corner, and I hope they get to expand a little bit like they've been planning to.
Yep, me too.
So keep in mind, Real Cinema, Real Film Day is March 5th. I think they're going to keep the same day every year, and you can find out more about it by going to drafthouse.com/event/real-film-day. We'll have a link in the show notes. They offer some great T-shirts and pens to help promote it. If you're a film lover, go over and grab those because it's supporting this whole thing.
Definitely
and,
do.
And just like Record Store Day took off a few years ago, let's make Real Film Day take off too.
And if you do go over, tell them where you heard about it here on Subject Cinema.
Please do.
Real movies for real people. Subject Cinema.
Check out the Blueprint Review podcast at blueprintreview.co.uk. This could be interesting because I know we've got some very diverse people. I'm going to be arguing with Darren a lot.
I think it's going to be me v you lot with maybe Laura sat in the middle.
To be honest, I think it's about expectation.
Yeah.
Like, I think.
Yeah, I expected it to
Welcome to the soundtrack of your life. You're listening to Subject Cinema with T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown.
The Silver Stream.
The bombing in Oklahoma City was an attack on defenseless citizens.
You know, I could hear yelling, screaming. He said, "You can't go up there, it's too dangerous." But I just kept saying, "Our babies are in there." And I thought, who has come in here and done this terrible thing?
FBI hotline. We had all kinds of experts looking for clues.
Because at the very first...
It was one of the most shocking events of the 1990s. It brought imagery to America that we hadn't seen for a very long time. It brought terror to hundreds of people. It affected thousands of people's lives. And it showed that evil can come from the heartland. It was Oklahoma City. And TC has a review of one of the films that was made about that tragic occurrence.
Oklahoma City was shown as an episode of American Experience on PBS a couple of weeks ago. It actually had its premiere at this year's Sundance Film Festival. The special focuses its efforts on the look at the rescuers, at some of the victims, and mostly at what led Timothy McVeigh to set up a truck bomb that killed over 150 people and injured a lot more, including a bunch of children in the daycare center at the Murrah building in Oklahoma City. The film looks in depth at the events that lead up to what caused McVeigh to do what he did. It also gives an interesting and intensely personal look into Timothy McVeigh's life story, his background, and how he ended up becoming a radicalized American intent on upsetting the U.S. government. This film was fascinating from beginning to end. It looks a little bit not as in-depth as the following week's special at the Ruby Ridge incident and the Waco incident with the Branch Davidians. And McVeigh set off his bomb on the anniversary of the fire at Waco. And that was part of the reason why they became aware fairly quickly after initially all the TV news people were saying there were ties to the Middle East. It's a Middle Eastern terror attack. Mm-hmm. Quickly, within 2 days, they were back to realizing, no, this is domestic, and it's scary. The filmmakers have taken great steps to make it a very even-handed film. They look at the people involved with the actual events, including government agencies and people that worked for them during the Ruby Ridge standoff and the Waco standoff, and how some of them still feel things were handled badly, and it was reasoning why each of these incidents led to what happened in Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. It also goes into in a little bit. There's one particular reporter they talked to that subscribes everything to the white supremacy movement. Some of that is true, but it's not all exclusively credible to them.
Right.
Creditable to them.
Credited. You can't credit all of it to them
because it is. There's a lot more going on than just that. That is part of it, especially with Ruby Ridge. But there was no white supremacy stuff going on in Waco. They had blacks and Hispanics and Asians and everything in that compound. Mm-hmm. Although most of them were out by the time what happened. The hardest thing to see in this film are people talking about the actual disaster itself. The hardest thing to watch in this film is the discussions and the interviews with the people involved with the actual disaster. Now, maybe I'm a little bit, what's the word when you get, I wouldn't say numb, but what's the word that you would get
jaded?
From... jaded might fit, because I watch so many disaster shows, mm-hmm. and Air Disasters has tons of interviews with people involved with these things. Maybe I get a little numb, but you have to be heartless. You have to be Spock to not be affected by this gentle giant of a man who was a sheriff's department, I believe, at the time, who was very obviously on the verge of tears talking about what they found in the daycare center at the Murrow building.
Oh, yeah.
It will affect you.
It affected the whole country. I mean, there was that one heartbreaking image of the firefighter cradling the body of one of the children. That was, that was all over the news, all over the media. And, I mean, there is no way you could look at that and not be affected by that.
Yeah. The stories that the parents tell, there's a couple of parents who both worked at the building. Their kids were in the daycare. They both miraculously survived, although their son did have a brain injury and has had to struggle with it. They both survived the blast, and they shifted their focus immediately from what they had been focusing on to realizing how important the family was.
Right.
I have another lady who most of her kids got out okay, but one of her sons did not. And she talks about how it had to be that she had to be able to forgive McVeigh because otherwise, was that her? No, that was the lady from the office that lost her eyesight when she was there. Said she had to forgive McVeigh for what he did because if she didn't, then he won. He made her hatred grow. And that's not the kind of person she wanted to be.
Wow.
The in-depth behind the
That's
scenes...
amazing when you hear people say things like that.
When you look at the in-depth behind-the-scenes story of who Timothy McVeigh was, you wonder, how did this clean-cut, friendly, outgoing American kid end up, 5 years later, a multi-mass murderer? And it all stems from his year, or less than a year, in the Iraq Gulf War. It's like, wow. And they actually have, amazingly, and I didn't know it existed till I saw this, footage from a local news crew interviewing Timothy McVeigh selling bumper stickers from the back of his car outside of the Waco compound.
Wow.
He was there. I did not know this until I saw this film.
Bumper stickers for what?
White supremacy stuff.
Oh.
The stuff that he had gotten into, the government conspiracy stuff that had entered his head while he was in Iraq. And you can see, you look at him when he was a teenager and look at him 4 years later, he's a completely different person. And it's terrifying. As I told you yesterday, if someone had pushed him one little notch to the right, left instead of one little notch to the right, he may have been an American hero.
Yeah.
Instead, he is a martyr for terrorism.
Yeah, or if somebody had said, hey, dude, you need some help.
Well, they did that, and it didn't help any, but it's like,
well,
this film is riveting and unbelievable. And as always, with most of the stuff that runs on American Experience, once you start watching, you are not going to want to turn your head away until it's over.
Right.
It is a fascinating look. And some of the people, they didn't really talk to... They didn't talk to any of the children that survived, which I was kind of disappointed with. Although they did show the kids of the family that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
But they didn't talk to any of the kids about memories that they had of that day. And I understand, and you can see the look on your face, but it is a necessary part of life. They had to deal with it.
They had to deal with it, but you don't have to watch it. I'm not trying to be a jerk about this, but you don't...
No, but I'm saying that they do this on air disasters. They've talked to some of these people, and it's hard, but it's a catharsis for them. And I'm thinking maybe it would have worked that way here. But I don't know. They did talk with a number of the survivors from the building. And I remember when this happened, I was at work. My boss called me. Kim was homesick that day. Watched it on TV. And I remember when McVeigh was caught because we were on our way to a wrestling show in Westford. We'd never been up there. And we heard it over the news as we were driving up. And it's like, this is insane. It's an American. It's somebody from where? New York?
There was this whole...
He grew up in New York, outside of Buffalo. I'm like, oh my God.
I mean, we were listening to this on the radio, and they're talking about all this malicious stuff, and I was like, what malicious? What are they talking about?
This is a fascinating look at that, too, and there is some
Yeah.
history of the militia movement and of the white supremacist movement in this film, and it is definitely something that you should take a chance to see. It is available for free for the next 24 to 48 hours on the PBS.org website, and also if you have a local on-demand channel at PBS, but it does disappear after that. But you can rent it for $4.99 from Amazon, iTunes, and a number of other places. And it will probably be back on the free channel on PBS this summer. Most of them usually are after the season is over. If you've not seen it, it is a riveting look at this. And because it premiered at Sundance, I have to see if it actually is going to qualify for the awards, because I don't know if it got a theatrical release. I know it premiered at Sundance, and it's playing at several other festivals, but I don't know if it actually got a theatrical release. But it is definitely worth seeking out if you have any curiosity about one of the truest and biggest American disasters of all time. Then this is something that you need to see. I definitely would say this is worth seeing all the way. Oklahoma City gets A+ from me.
Real movies for real people. Subject Cinema.
His movies.
Way to go, Charlie!
I think it rips through your clothes when it takes you over.
More human than human is our motto.
He tasks me, and I shall have him.
Her movies.
The hills are alive. You're so jealous you can hardly breathe.
The rum!
Yes, the rum is gone.
Why is the rum gone?
Suddenly my life doesn't seem such a waste.
Fuzzy Fur Movies. The Cave Babble Podcast. We babble about the movies you love.
And probably a few that you love to hate.
Find out more at cavebabble.com. Also available on iTunes, Stitcher, and by Smoke Signal. CAVE. Babble. Cavebabble.com. Movies for him, her, and you.
If you're looking for great films, well, that's okay. You'll like us anyway. Subject Cinema.
FETHIVAL FLASH! This is festival season in Boston, but it's also major festival season around the country.
Yep.
In addition to our own neck of the woods in the Boston Springs Festival getting underway with the Salem Film Fest this week, True False is going on in Columbia, Missouri. This is in the backyard of our friends at Cave Babble, Eric and Valerie Lyon. It's about 30 miles from them. We've been trying to get out there for years, and it's also an alt-doc fest and one of the most revered in the country. But, you know, it gets really kind of crazy when one thing that makes me nuts about all of the festivals up here is that very often they take forever to announce their lineups.
That's true.
I mean, at least we have opening and closing films from Boston International, Boston Underground, and Wicked Queer and the Real Abilities Boston have all announced opening or closing. Boston Underground actually has 5 or 6 other titles announced. And yet, here we are, and I realize that Brian and Nancy and the people that work for the Independent Film Festival Boston, which was the last festival of the season in late April, early May, have a lot of work cut out for them. But here we are, 8 weeks out from that. They haven't announced yet, and Tribeca, the festival that happens in New York, the same weekend, has already announced their entire lineup. That makes me crazy. Tribeca has a lot of interesting stuff this year. I mean, it's considered kind of a stepchild, unfortunately, to some of the bigger festivals like Sundance and Toronto.
Right.
Toronto actually announced last week they're cutting their film. They're cutting by 20% the number of films this year, which is interesting. But I was really, I mean, some of the stuff at Tribeca is interesting, and it's getting interesting buzz because usually films that come out of Tribeca and end up in theaters don't necessarily have a high profile in the theater. But once we see them and we start talking about them constantly on home video and occasionally in the theater, we get the word out there. City Island started at Tribeca. Sonita started at Tribeca. A whole bunch of other stuff we've seen over the years. There's a great new film, and I've unfortunately forgotten the name of it, that is coming to theaters this spring, directed, written by, and starring Dimitri Martin, which was the big winner at Tribeca last year, and I can't wait to see this film because I love Demetri Martin as an actor. He does not take himself seriously that way, and I think he's much better as an actor than as a stand-up. I'm not particularly fond of his stand-up, but it's like I can't wait to see that. Gabriel came out of Tribeca too, the intense drama with one of the Culkins, Rory, a couple years ago. So Tribeca has a great track record. Some of the stuff being talked about this year, Aardvark, which is the world premiere from director Brian Schoaf, also the writer, starring Zachary Quinto and John Hamm, and Jenny Slate. There's, let's see, that was one of the ones that's talked about. Blame, written and directed by Quinn Shepard, starring Shepard and Chris Messina. I love the names. A lot of times the names at Tribeca are what attract us, because they always get films by people we love. Messina's on that list right now. Yep. Flower, directed by Max Winkler, who is who you think it is. It's Henry Winkler's son. With Zoe Deutsch, Catherine Hahn, Adam Scott, Tim Heidecker, Joey Morgan, and Dylan Galuta, I think it is. The 1% More Humid, Julia Garner and Juno Temple, the stars of that. I'm always on the lookout for good stuff from Juno, who just is such an underrated actress. And she doesn't get the attention she should, and she's really good.
Can I just jump in real quick?
Sure.
I think the Demetri Martin movie you're talking about is called Dean.
Yes, thank you, Dean.
Yeah.
That's the one. And yeah, I can't wait to see that after everybody was talking about it last year. That's another bad thing about Tribeca. It usually takes films about 2 years coming out of there to get seen by the general public. City Island was one of the lucky ones. It got out about 8 months after it was at Tribeca.
Yeah.
So, and it was your best picture, 2010.
It was.
Chuck, another film that's being talked about, is the story of the man who inspired Rocky, with Liev Schreiber, Naomi Watts, Ron Perlman, Elizabeth Moss, Jim Gaffigan, and Michael Rappaport, already purchased by IFC. The Clapper, which is not what you think it is. It's not about the person who made the hands on, hands off. Amanda Seyfried is the star of that, along with Tracy Morgan, Adam Levine, Russell Peters, and appearances by Rob Gronkowski.
Woo!
Yike. Mark Cuban and the late Alan Thicke, also in that. We'll have a whole list of all the stuff coming to Tribeca later on. The one that I'm interested in, documentary-wise, there's actually two of them that I'm really interested in. And Tribeca has a great... Although they did get some flack last year for bringing Vaxxed, which is the documentary about the vaccination and autism. And they took a hell of a beating out over that one last year. There are two interesting ones coming that I know are going to cause problems because they're political oriented.
Yeah.
Acorn and the Firestorm, written and directed by Ruben Atlas and Sam Pollard, looks at the community organizing group Acorn, and how for all these years they did all these good things, and then a hidden camera scandal brought them crashing down. Whichever side of the wall you're on that, wait till you see the film. It'd be interesting to see what that is.
Right.
The other one is an in-depth portrait of Elian Gonzalez, who is now 22 years old, and it tells his story from his point of view. And for those of you who don't remember, Elian Gonzalez was the young, I think he was 10 at the time, kid in Miami that was forcibly removed from his home in Miami and returned to his father's legal custody in Havana.
Yes, his mother had fled Cuba with Elian at the cost of her own life, trying to get him to this country. And he was taken out of the home he was in the middle of the night by armed military.
It was really badly handled.
It was
everything if you noticed, when we get to the film reviews, we'll talk more about it, but a lot of the stuff handled by the Justice Department under the Clinton administration was kind of botched, and it has a lot to do with the fact that the people that were doing each thing were a little bit out of kilter because of the way that particular administration ran their various organizations.
It was a complete and utter shitestorm, and everybody knew it.
It's going to be interesting, and I'm very interested to see what Elian has to say for himself. It is produced, not directed, but produced by Alex Gibney, who is always good for good stuff. And I'm very interested to see what they will come up with. The Tribeca Film Festival will be happening in late April. Let me get the exact date here. If it's listed. Because sometimes they list it and sometimes they don't. I want to try and find it.
Sometimes they know and sometimes they don't.
Yeah, sometimes. Well, it is. I believe it's the last weekend of the month. And I don't have it listed here. Oh, yeah, I wanted to bring up one other film, and that's Super Dark Times, another starring role for 2010 or 2011 Rising Star alum Owen Campbell, along with Charlie Tahan, Elizabeth Cappuccino, Max Talisman, Sawyer Bart, and Amy Hargreaves. It's a thriller. Owen's currently on screen in theaters with As You Are, which we still haven't had a chance to catch, and we're trying to get to it right now. And really want to take a look at that one too. So Tribeca is coming up. It is happening at the end of April. We'll have the exact date in the show notes, and as well as a link to all the new films coming up. And they are always worth seeing because they always bring this in. Actor Robert De Niro, of course, the founder of the Tribeca Film Festival, in the wake of 9/11, it has become one of New York's premier film festivals. Although as I said, it's kind of a stepchild, unfortunately, to Toronto and Sundance.
The thing about that is the simple fact that some people are like, well, this festival is smaller.
It's not necessarily smaller,
though. Or they just feel like it's less important. I'm sorry, in my opinion, every film festival is important because it opens people's eyes to something new. So I think every film festival is just as important as the other.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I don't have the dates for it on my festival list either. I'm like, wait a minute, where's my festival list? Tribeca coming up at the end of April, and great titles, some of the great titles that we're looking forward to checking out. We urge you to check it online at tribecafilm.org, and also they do have a Tribeca Film app that is available, and they have a YouTube channel as well. You will get trailers and stuff for the films once they start showing on both of those, so please check them out.
Subject Cinema.
Alright guys, so we need to record our top 3 reasons why you should listen to French Toast Sunday podcast.
Number 3 should definitely be our diverse opinions.
Number 2 should probably be our top 3 lists that we do every week.
No, it's gotta be Mark Wahlberg.
What about Gwyneth Paltrow's head?
It's gotta be Fighting the Sadness in the Swamp of Sadness.
Full Frontal.
Stories about being lost at sea.
Brendan Fraser being underground.
Helen Mirren's boobs.
Baltimore accents as heard in The Wire.
Wunderklaus.
Crepes. Character studies.
Wait, guys. What about movies?
Nah.
Tree rape.
Tree rape? Yeah, I like tree rape.
Tune in every Friday for a new episode of French Toast Sunday podcast, brought to you by us at FrenchToastSunday.com.
Clothing made out of Burger King wrappers.
TC Kirkham and Kim Brown. Real movies for real people. Subject Cinema.
Hollywood Oblivioous.
I was actually going to write up an article for the blog about this, but I think it'd be easier to talk about it, and I probably will write about it in the near future. We mentioned a couple weeks ago that this year's big winner at Sundance, which is, what's the name of it?
Oh, yeah.
I don't feel at home in this world anymore.
Yes. Right.
With Melanie Linsky and Elijah Wood.
Was Existential Angst,
which we still haven't caught. We were supposed to have a review this week, but it's been crazy. We will get to it next week. This film won the grand prize, the jury prize for Best Picture at Sundance, and within a month it premiered as a Netflix original on Netflix. No theatrical release at all. Now I found out earlier this week another film that I had been waiting for the last year, since it premiered at last year's Toronto Film Festival, a movie called Brain on Fire, which is a biopic starring Chloe Grace Moretz and Thomas Mann, has also gone straight to Netflix and will premiere this summer.
Yeah.
This was a film that was getting awards buzz, serious awards buzz at Toronto. Now, by signing with Netflix, that goes out the window.
It does.
So this is what I'm curious about. Filmmakers, you guys, I'm not even going to profess to know anything about the ins and outs of the financial business. I sit and I read all the stuff from IndieWire and Deadline and Playlist and all those places about the crazy negotiations that go on for distribution for films that show at Sundance, Slamdance, Toronto,
Right.
so on and so forth.
It's a lot of machinations. It makes Game of Thrones look like a game of Chutes and Ladders. You know, it's like
Yeah, pretty much. But I am at a loss to understand why you would take a film which could be, because, granted, about 70%, 60 to 70% of the films that have been nominated for Best Picture in the last couple of years, or last 5 years, have shown at one of the major film festivals before going to big release.
right.
Why would you make a deal with a company that does not give your film at least a theatrical release in New York and Los Angeles to qualify it for the Oscars?
I don't know.
I don't understand what filmmakers are thinking. Now, this is what I've got to say to them. Filmmakers, when you're dealing with Netflix and Amazon, you're dealing with two different people here. Amazon and Jeff Bezos have said, we're in the theatrical game.
Right.
Manchester by the Sea is proof of that. They have been a huge hit since it opened in December or November, whenever it opened, and it was up for several Oscars. Won Casey Affleck a Best Actor Oscar last week, and it had a theatrical release, and they couldn't wait to get that Amazon Films on the big screen.
Right.
Netflix is going a completely different direction. Now, while they are piddly putting films in theaters when it suits them, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon went into a few IMAX theaters last year, the sequel, and Beasts of No Nation, which could have been an Oscar monster, went to 8 or 9 theaters and then straight onto Netflix day and date, and that pissed all the distributors off and all the cinemas off, and they wouldn't take it. The Landmark chain took it and a few other places, but this was a film which won 4 Spirit Awards and was considered one of the best films of the year, and it got nothing from the Oscars because of that. It's time for filmmakers to sit back and realize that if they're going to get real consideration when you're making your deal with Netflix, you need to include a codicil in the contract which specifies requirement of theatrical release in either Los Angeles or New York for at least a week.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are the two major cities. It can be 2 or 3 other major cities. The Academy recognizes weekly releases in Chicago and Miami, I think, and possibly Dallas as other cities that they'll recognize as Oscar runs. Right. Boston is not one of them, which doesn't make any sense to me, but it's not. I'm fed up with this. All these great films that are coming to Netflix, as we said last week, we have changed the rules of the Poppies and Rosies. If you don't get a theatrical release, you don't qualify for the major Poppies and Rosies awards. You will qualify only for Best Streaming Film. And we will not include the actors in it as part of the acting awards either. Because I simply don't think that's fair to the theatrical releases.
No, it isn't.
Why would a film... there's been several articles over the last few weeks on various sites about this. And the big question is, especially in the case of a movie like I don't feel at home on this planet anymore, or whatever it is.
That one.
The Long Existential thing. It's not an Oscar film. It's a Blue Ruin, Green Room style film,
right,
from the man who's actually the protege of the guy that made those films.
It's probably got a better chance at the Spirits than the
it probably would have. But again, the Spirits require a theatrical release,
right?
At some point, it doesn't have to. It can be after they're up for an award, but they do require a theatrical release. So, are filmmakers really? If you want a movie and if you're a filmmaker, your main thing as a filmmaker should be one day walking onto the stage at the Kodak Theater in Los Angeles to pick up that little 9-inch high naked guy with the sword.
Boy, when you say it like that, it's so unglamorous.
This is the pinnacle of the film industry.
Right.
around the world. The film, even in other countries with the BAFTAs and all their own awards, they want that Oscar.
Right.
Why would you make a choice to have a film, I mean, even a well-reviewed film, especially a well-reviewed film, at a festival, why would you make a choice to go with Netflix?
I don't know. Now,
granted, it can come back to bite you on the ass. Netflix offered $20 million at last year's Sundance Film Festival for Birth of a Nation.
Mm-hmm.
And the distributors, and Nate Parker, the writer, star, director of it, decided, not distributors, producers, decided they wanted a theatrical release and went with 20th Century Fox's Searchlight arm for $14 million.
Right.
A lot less money, and of course, was expected to be a big hit until the whole scandal hit in September. So it's like, this is detrimental to filmmakers out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly think that letting Netflix call the shots with these is the wrong approach. It definitely gets your films on. And it's fine if you have a day and date release,
mm-hmm.
and it's a large enough release that the theater chains won't have a fit about it. And now, when I say theater chains, I mean the biggies: AMC, Regal, Carmike, the rest of them around the country, Showcase.
Right.
Although Showcase does actually do a few of those. That's a great thing. If you get a day and date and you're only stuck in landmark theaters, which is a good thing too, but it's a lot less theaters, then you might have a problem. But at least it qualifies you for Oscar if you play in Los Angeles or New York.
That is true.
So, I have to urge filmmakers, if you were serious about wanting awards, or if you get word and somebody says, you're going to win everything for this, when they see a rough cut of the film, and somebody knowledgeable, a film critic, or a film producer, or somebody in the business that you trust, looks at your film, and you say, and they say to you, this has got Oscar written all over it, and then 2 weeks later at Sundance, or at Toronto, or one of the other festivals, Netflix comes to you with a contract that says, we'll pay you X amount of dollars, but it has to become a Netflix original. Say no. As long as it's a Netflix original, you're right out the window, and there goes your Oscar. Mm-hmm. Netflix originals aren't really originals 90% of the time anyway. They're acquisitions. Originals are films they've funded themselves, like the Crouching Tiger film.
Right.
I don't feel at home in this world anymore, and Brain on Fire, they are not Netflix originals, even though they're going to be labeled as such. They're acquisitions. And I love Netflix. Don't get me wrong. Netflix is a great service. I love them. We use them all the time. We could not do this show without Netflix and Amazon Prime. And it's like, I don't have any ill will toward them. I have ill will with the way they're trying to undermine the theatrical industry. And it really irritates me. They should be following Amazon's footsteps in offering decent theatrical releases. I know they want programming on their service. But when you see the success that Manchester by the Sea had, isn't Netflix shooting themselves in the foot by not following that same business model?
I think that they could be, yeah.
We want to know what you think about this. Subject Cinema at PNRNetworks.com. And keep an eye on these things. If you see a filmmaker or know of a filmmaker or see something online about a film that you think that they say where they're considering going with Netflix, let me know. I want to know, and I want to talk to the filmmaker.
Subject Cinema.
Plug Central.
This is the part of the show where we talk a little bit about ourselves. We got a great stuff going on every week. I want to apologize. Front Row 5 and 10 and Catastrophe Vortex both took the last week off, and Front Row was off for 2 weeks. The reason is because I have been working my butt off getting East Cinema Boston back up. I've had more trouble with that site, and I couldn't wait any longer because Salem Film Fest started this week, and it had to be up by the time Salem was on. And so it's up. It's still got bugs in it, but it's up, and I hope you guys will check out the massive coverage we're going to give Boston Springs of Festival, all the great festivals up here over the next few weeks. You can go to eastcinemaboston.com and check all that out. Don't forget to check out our daily stuff as we have it on our regular website, eastcinema1.com, the home of Subject Cinema, and all of our other podcasts, as well as all the great stuff I try to bring you during the week, occasional articles and stuff. I'm hoping to do more. I've always wanted to do, several articles a week on that site, and I never can seem to get into it, but I will, hopefully, shortly. I also want to remind you that during the month of March, there is a new thing going on, and Libsyn, our podcast distributor, is urging everybody to get involved with, so we are. When you listen to Subject Cinema or any of the other podcasts, we ask that you tweet it to your friends with the hashtag Tripod, TRYPOD. And then if you are listening to one of the shows, we ask that you add another tripod, and that's hashtag Tripod and the initials of the show. So for Subject Cinema, it would be hashtag TripodSC. Platinum Rose's Garden, hashtag Tripod PRG. Catastrophe Vortex, CV, and so on and so forth. I'll have a complete list in the show notes. But please tweet to your friends that you listen to the show and include those hashtags, because Libsyn is keeping track of them, and we hope that you will also help us out and get a little bit more noticed and maybe get more people to try the show. That's a definite must.
Yeah.
We have a lot of other shows to talk about. Why don't you talk about some of them?
Well, I'd be glad to. I would like to talk for a second about my show, which is Platinum Rose's
Oh,
Garden.
sure. Start with your show.
I guess I kind of walked into that. Platinum Rose's Garden is my supernatural podcast where I do an episode recap of that week's episode of Supernatural. This week I am looking at the episode The Raid, which just aired this week, and hopefully you'll come check that out over at PlatinumRosesGarden.com. I will put in a caveat, this is not safe for work.
And don't forget, we can listen to hashtag Tripod and hashtag Tripod PRG.
Yes. And it is, as I said, not safe for work because I swear like a trucker. And there's also TC's show on Catastrophe Vortex.
Every Wednesday, supposedly, we talk about disaster films, real-life disasters, and all kinds of stuff. I started it about at the beginning of February, and I'm only on 3 shows. I should have had 5 by now because it's just been crazy trying to get this other stuff on. But we will be back this week with Twister, which is in tribute to Bill Paxton, who we lost last week, and also a few other things going on there. And that's over at catastrophevortex.com, hashtag TripodCV.
Yep.
There's also our weekly, and Front Row 5 and 10 will be back Thursday, hashtag TripodFR for Front Row. And it, of course, will be starting with the Bond countdown that we were supposed to do 2 weeks ago. There's also K-Babble with Eric and Valerie Lyon, and they are at kbabble.com. They talk about movies, games, TV, odd things to eat, and more. And they're a lot of fun. If you've never listened to their show, you definitely should give it a try because it's a blast. kbabble.com, hashtag KBabbleCB, or hashtag TripodCB for K-Babble. And you can also reach them at kbabble.com. And our weekly mini shows, we have 2 of them. Front Row, not Front Row, is that's not a mini show.
We have Tuesday Digidex.
On Tuesdays, giving you the rundown on the DVD, Blu-ray, and on-demand streaming releases, and 3-Minute Weekend on Fridays with all the latest film releases in the U.S., both major and indies. And you can hashtag those with Tripod TD for Tuesday Digidex and Tripod TMW for 3-Minute Weekend. I'll have a complete list of them, like I said, up on the website. And those are what we do as far as podcasting goes. I'm working on other things, too. I'm slowly getting the radio stations back together. I'd hoped to relaunch it in January, but it's actually been a real hassle getting things done. So hopefully it'll be up soon. But Marquee Mix is returning with all the great film songs from the 1980s forward. And then later on we'll have classics and scores up. And I hope a whole network of channels, because we can do them for free, courtesy of Radionomy. They get all the ad revenue. So that's what pays for everything. And it's really great, and I hope those will be up soon. And they'll be a part of the Kirkham Report radio network when it comes up at KirkhamReport.com. Hopefully I'd planned to do that in January too, but I didn't. Is there anything else that I'm forgetting? Because I forget a show every week, it seems like.
No, I think that's everything.
Okay. Check out eCinema 1 and eCinema Boston, PlatinumRosesGarden.com, KBabble.com. And Three Minute Weekend and Tuesday Digijacks are both available on the eCinema 1 website and on the eCinema Boston website starting this week. And you can check those out there also. Don't forget to check out eCinema Boston, especially because it is ramping up. In addition to daily coverage of the Salem Film Fest, we've got 7 more festivals in the next 8 weeks to take care of, including Real Abilities, Wicked Queer, International, Irish, which also announced this week, Underground, IFFB, and the Belmont Film Series and the Dockyard Spring Series. And it's going to be just nuts. So please come over and check out my daily write-ups for each of those. We'll give you schedules, we'll give you film info, and if you live in the Boston area, we want to become your premier site for film information in Boston, ecinema1.com. eCinemaBoston.com. That was good. I'm going so fast I don't even remember. Anything else?
No, I think
that's going to do it for Plug Central this week.
Best movies. Subject Cinema.
The Silver Stream.
How many glasses is that for you?
Whatever. Jesus drank wine.
Can you imagine if we land this contract tonight?
Now, what do you think of when you look at that?
It makes me think of the worst thing I can imagine.
You are helping me tomorrow. It pays the bills.
Somebody has to be the breadwinner.
Why is it always me?
Because you're more masculine.
Jesus, you look like someone I went to college with.
Hi, Veronica.
Oh my God, this is my husband's party. Wow. I thought those guys were gay. They were acting so gay.
Yeah, my husband's not gay.
No, I know.
We have a beautiful son.
When you think of the term catfight, we usually think of Joey Styles' voice going crazy at ECW, yelling when two of the ladies from ECW would take on each other. Most people who normally watch television probably think of Alexis and Crystal from Dynasty, or Alexis and Dominique from Dynasty, or any number of things from the Dynasty Colby group. Now there's a new movie out with that title. It's a comedy, supposedly, and is about a couple of old college friends who run into each other after years and suddenly decide they're going to be fighting about a lot of things. Anne Hesh and Sandra Oh, Catfight, and Kim watched it earlier this week. Give us the rundown.
Okay. Catfight is the story of Ashley and Veronica.
Ooh, excuse me.
Ashley is Ashley Miller, who is an artist who is not very successful because her art is not very good.
Could one say it sucks?
Well, it's
art is art, and it's always going to be art to somebody.
It is.
We know this from watching Herb and Dorothy a few years ago.
Right? Yeah, definitely. The phrase "I don't know much about art, but I know what I like" is what popped into my head because I was watching this stuff, going, "Well, this is crap." I'm sorry. It's all very red and very full of imagery of
ketchup stain on the carpet.
No, it's imagery of dead babies and sperm with the head with sperm on a guillotine and all this other stuff like that. It's very
ew.
It's very angry art, but there's no passion behind it. It's all pretentious crap, in my opinion. And Ashley is really kind of a bitch. She's not a likable person at all. She's in a relationship with Lisa. And they are trying to they want to start a family. Why Lisa wants to start a family with Ashley, I have no idea. But anyway, the other woman involved in this story is Veronica Salt. Veronica is married to a man involved with trying to get their business is involved with the military right now. This is going on during the whole war on terror thing. And that's kind of a backdrop throughout the movie. And Veronica is an even bigger bitch than Allison. Actually, Veronica is even more of, in my opinion, what I would refer to as a see you next Tuesday.
Oh my frog. Can't believe you went there.
She is a narcissist. She is a drunk. She is crushing the artistic dreams of her son Kip, who is a very talented artist, who is talking about someday going to art school, and she is of the opinion that that's a total waste of time, that art is something you do in kindergarten to get out of doing real work, and so on and so forth. There's a party thrown for the business partner of Veronica's husband. And so Veronica is at this party where her husband has asked her, please don't drink, because when she drinks, she just won't shut up. And it turns out Ashley is at the party as well, working as a caterer, because Lisa asked for some help, because Lisa's the only one bringing in any money, because Ashley's art isn't selling. Go back to Ashley's art sucks. Ashley and Veronica meet up at the party, recognize each other, and stuff goes rapidly downhill from there. A fight, an actual fist fight in a stairwell, leads to a hellacious beating, which leads to Veronica falling down the stairs, which leads to a coma that lasts for 2 years, and when she wakes up, things, if at all possible, have gotten even worse. And thus continues the story of what happens when Ashley and Veronica's lives start on roller coasters of incredible highs, impossible lows, and the fact that when these women see each other again, there's more fisticuffs, more bloodshed, and just more of every kind of conceivable nonsense going on that you think people would have outgrown by the time they hit that age, but apparently not.
With Grey's Anatomy's Sandra Oh as Veronica, Anne Heche as Ashley, Alicia Silverstone as Lisa, Justin Adut as Amid, Dylan Baker as Dr. Jones, Titus Burgess as John, Jordan Carlos as Howie, Justin A. Davis as Henry, Julian Yao Giollo, I hope I pronounced that right, as Kip, Emily Harrington as Tiffany. What'd you think?
Okay.
You were the one that saw this and said, oh my God, this looks hilarious, I want to see it.
Well, I didn't think it looked hilarious. I thought it looked interesting.
Okay.
Honor Turkel is the director of this film, and I have to take a couple of things off the top. The term catfight does not exactly fit this film on two different levels. The first level is cats fight with more dignity about things that make more sense. Territory.
Well, they're
mates.
not talking literal catfight here, though.
Territory, mates, food, things like that. Cats are more graceful when they fight.
Gotcha, okay.
Number one. Number two, usually when people talk about a cat fight between two women, it's usually in a derogatory sense, which is, it is what it is.
I do my Joey Styles imitation, but my voice will start me coughing and I won't be able to stop for a week.
No, don't do it.
Yeah.
You'll hurt yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know how Joey didn't
I don't
hurt
either.
himself. Hey, Joey. Cat fight, when you think of a cat fight, you are usually thinking of a fight between two people who, for the most part, let's face it, don't know how to fight. A cat fight is usually involving two women slapping each other, scratching each other, pulling each other's hair, pulling each other's clothes, that kind of a thing. That is not the case in this movie. Considering the fact that when the fight starts, Ashley is actually standing in the hallway smoking a joint, I'm like, I thought weed mellowed you out. Apparently not. Because these women, I'm like, where the hell did you go to school? UFC Academy or something? These women are punching each other. I mean, punching each other. And, kicking each other and all this stuff like that, which I was sitting there going, I will not get excited by this. I will not get excited by this. I didn't actually, which is strange for me, usually. Anyway.
I'll attest to that.
But everybody has kinks. Don't judge me. I think maybe the reason that I didn't was the simple fact that both of these women are so awful. I mean,
You said that both characters are thoroughly unlikable.
They are. They're both narcissistic.
Are we at a COG level unlikable with these characters?
Yes.
Oh, wow. That's serious.
They're both narcissistic. See you next Tuesday. Both of them.
Will you stop using that phrase?
fine. They're both narcissistic bitches. Although, to be honest with you, if I had to pick one that I disliked more, it would have to be Ashley. She's just an awful person. She's just, everything revolves around her and her art, and art is truth and all this other stuff like that. She goes off on her assistant because blue isn't true. Blue isn't a true color because blue represents happiness, and happiness isn't a real thing, and all this other stuff like that. I'm like, shut up! You know, if you're that damn miserable at life, walk into traffic, please. Because, you know, her character was just so awful. I'm like, please, just, I'm sitting here going, oh man, if this is one movie where a chainsaw-wielding maniac could show up.
You're thinking of that phrase you had me cut out of this week's PRG, aren't you?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Veronica actually does go through some changes in the film, and I actually did wind up finding her a more sympathetic character as things went on. But for the most part, none of the characters in this film are very likable. Lisa, Ashley's lover, is one of these people that when they have the baby shower scene, oh my God, the baby shower scene. When she's sitting there picking apart every single gift that she's being given by her friends because, oh, well, this has 10% polyester, and, oh, the baby monitor might have Wi-Fi in it, and all this stuff like that. And I'm going, oh, my
She's
God.
She's one of these clean green people. Okay, got you.
I'm like, oh, my God, shut up. My parents drank and smoked in front of me, and I turned out... No, I'm actually not going to finish that.
Good, because you're not going to give me my ammunition.
I was going to say, oh my God, my parents drank and smoked in front of my sister, and she turned out better than I did.
No, equal.
But there's, for the most part, there's a few minor characters that are quite likable, but the main characters are just such rotten people that you're just sitting there going, please, beat each other up more. Please. Because maybe one of you will get lucky and kill the other one, and the world will be less, free of one less miserable person.
How was the film as a stylistic film?
Stylistically, it was extremely well done. I do have some other complaints, though, simply because I was a little bit confused by the whole atmosphere of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Simply, the reason I bring that up, and people are going to be like, well, what do you mean? What I mean is that some of the situations where these fights, and there's more than one, go on, I find it extremely... I mean, this film is obviously... It's a black comedy. It's not pitch black, but it's close. It's a very dim room comedy. You won't bump into the furniture, but you might trip on the rug. It slams on the whole war on terror. It slams on the healthcare system. It slams on everything that it can, pretty much. But my big issue was the fact that there's one specific scene I was like, nope. There's this big fight, another physical fight, that happens between Ashley and Veronica that winds up taking place, for the most part, outside. This is outside in what I'm assuming is supposed to be New York, or at least a very large city. These two women are beating the living frog snot out of each other, and somehow this does not attract a crowd? That is not even...
Not realistic.
That is not even remotely believable, because people in New York will line up for the opening of an envelope. I'm sorry.
Oh, ow. That's mean.
People stop just because somebody trips and falls. You watch two women beating the hell out of each other, and you're not going to have a crowd of people standing there with their cell phones out?
Clarify that. Crowd of guys. Right? Yes?
Yeah. Crowd of guys with their junk in their hands.
With the cell phones,
yeah.
So they can do it later.
Anyway, I found that extremely unbelievable. The other thing that I was like, nope, about this film, and while I did enjoy it, it was just the simple fact that I was sitting there with this part, and I was like, and this is a more personal thing, and I'll admit that. And it's probably my own damn fault, because I read too many mysteries, watch too much CSI, and am just too interested in that sort of stuff. There are moments in this film where I'm going, that would have killed her, that would have killed her, that would have killed her.
Oh,
that definitely would have killed her.
It's an end of Twister situation. Okay.
I'm sorry. There is no way you can tell me anybody's going to get up and keep fighting after they take a wrench to the head. That is not happening. Unless it is a wrench made out of Nerf, and I'm pretty sure they don't do that. But, I mean, it held my interest. I mean, I've caused an episode. I'm sorry. It held my interest for 90 plus minutes. But like I said, the characters are so incredibly unlikable. But as I mentioned, Veronica, by the end of the film, I was more like, well, okay, you're not a horrible person. I never felt that about Ashley. Ashley, I felt like, if anything, was even more of a horrible person. Catfight is weird. It's if you can sit there and take yourself out of the fact that you're watching people do things to each other, where I'm sorry, I'm sitting there going, fractured skull, serious concussion.
Well, that's because you're a CSI fanatic too.
It's because I watch way too much Sherlock.
Yeah, and that too. Yeah.
It was bleak and dark and goofy and kind of fun. I'm going to give it a B+.
Catfight is now playing in theaters everywhere. It is also available from many locations via on-demand streaming through your local cable company, Amazon, iTunes, and all the usual outlets. Check it out.
Subject Cinema.
The last reel.
Let me take this time to remind everybody out there, and what a great place for it in the last reel, to remind everybody that April 15th is coming soon. That's Tax Day. But one day before that, it's Mystery Science Theater 3000 Day! Woo! Mystery Science Theater 3000 will be back on April 14th on Netflix. So this is one of the good things Netflix does.
Yes.
And they revive all these past shows and do really well with them. Fuller House is a huge hit. One Day at a Time is a huge hit. So now we will, hopefully Misty will be a huge hit. All new cast. Unfortunately, Patton Oswalt is part of it, but there's also... Well, I'm sorry, I don't like the guy, but I love Felicia Day. And I don't really know much about Jonah Ray, but I like what I've seen of him so far. He was great at the Riff Track 10th Anniversary Festival.
But we do know that they are bringing back Tom and Crow and Gypsy.
With new voices and new slight redesigns on some of the stuff, and it's going to be fun.
It'll be great.
Joel, we were Kickstarter backers of that. We got a huge package with it, and Joel sends out Joel Hodgson sends out regular updates on it. They are going to have an exclusive stream of the first film about 3 or 4 weeks before the show premieres. They're still keeping, they had a recent screenings for people that paid for them at the Kickstarter, during the Kickstarter, and they were actually required to sign a release form that said they would not divulge any of the titles.
Yep.
Beforehand, because Joel doesn't want anybody to know what titles they're doing.
Which suits me fine. I want to be surprised.
Yeah, because that way you don't have time to research everything.
Right.
And then you can just be like, ah!
You get the pain right up front, and you don't know what it's from.
So, as appropriate into the first episode of Masochistic March for this year, it's the show that originally originated the masochistic movement in the country, I think, when it premiered in 1990 on KTMA. Or maybe even 89 on KTMA before it went national on Comedy Central and then Sci-Fi. But it is nice that they will be coming back, and we will be looking forward to seeing them. And over the next few weeks, I'm sure we'll be talking a lot more about it.
Yep.
Because we are very excited, and there will probably eventually be a countdown clock on the website showing it, because we can't wait. April 14th is new Mystery Science Theater 3000 Day. And that's the last reel for this week. Well, I think this has been an interesting Masochistic March #1.
Yep.
Now, we have 3 more miserable martial arts masochistic things to go through.
Yep.
All of them are available for you to peruse, either on Netflix or on Amazon Prime or one of the other major streaming services like Vudu, iTunes, Crackle, Fandor, or it's available on DVD where you can rent it or find it pretty cheaply. And I got to admit, one of these films is actually a guilty pleasure for me, because I saw it years ago and I actually enjoyed it. And it is kind of dorky. It'll be the last film we do.
Yep.
And I saw it under a different title. But there's a couple in between there that are going to be really painful. One of them is a low-budget Bruceploitation film. The other one is a sequel to a video game film.
Yep.
And we'll tell you what they are as we come along in the next few weeks.
Yep.
Before we head off, because I forgot to do it in the Plug Central part, pull out that keyboard and very nicely take your fingers. If you hunt and peck, fine. If not, you just do it with all your fingers. And type in patreon.com/PNRNetworks. And go to our Patreon campaign. Because we're still waiting for you guys to come on board. And we're hoping that you'll come on board. We do a lot of hard work in trying to get everything ready. And we're trying to upgrade our equipment. But, if you like what you see here, Platinum Rose's Garden, Cave Babble, 2C Digidex, 3 Minute Weekend, Front Row 5 and 10, any of the websites we have, we really could use some help in getting this done because our computer is on its last legs. We desperately need a new mixer. We could use some new audio equipment. We can't do interviews anymore because our Skype won't work with this computer. And I have no other way of hooking up the phone.
Yeah.
And we're still trying to do that too. And I had all these interview opportunities I've had to pass up. We have a great video project we want to do with Kim if we get the funding. And we have all this film festival stuff we want to do if we get the funding. And we want to make everything way better for you. We already bring you quite a bit of stuff. And every dollar you can contribute, starting at the $2 level per month, all you need to do is check that in and $2 will get you a membership in our Patreon supporters. Go higher. We got higher perks, better perks, and perks that get you on the site and on the web, on the show. And that's really cool. But $2 a month is all we're really asking at the minimum level. And if everybody that listened did the $2 a month thing, we'd be doing great.
Yeah.
So if you're a listener, please take the time to just give $2 a month and be a part of this. So please come over and do it because we could use all the help we can get. We have so much we can do if we get a little bit more coming in and if you are willing to help us. Because the more you're willing to help, the more we can do to return what you've given us. And it's really terrific. I think that's it. We're going to be back here with another Masochistic March, Martial Arts March next week. But until then...
and own it, drive it like you stole it, roll it, this is your life, you can be anything, you gotta learn to rock and roll it, you gotta put the pedal down, and drive it like you
stole it. For Subject Cinema, I'm T.C. Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
May your popcorn always be butter.
And may your roses always be in bloom.
More masochistic marches on the way. Yay.
Oh, come on. It'll be fun.
Tell that to Godfrey Ho.
You have been listening to Subject Cinema with hosts T.C. Kirkham and Kim Brown. Subject Cinema is produced by PNRNetworks, Boston, Massachusetts, which is solely responsible for its content. Subject Cinema theme performed by Eric Lyon. Subject Cinema is recorded and produced using Sony Vegas products. Subject Cinema is copyright 2017 by PNRNetworks under a Creative Commons license. Check out a new episode of Subject Cinema every weekend. Until next time, this is Bob Taylor for Subject Cinema, and we'll see you at the movies. Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.